This is just so cute. What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to be assembling and setting up the URUAV UZ80. Now, this is a 1S toothpick. It's about the size of this box, very small, and I'm very excited to see how it flies, see how easy it goes together. This is the first drone that I'm building that actually requires no soldering. All right, so let's open this up and see what's inside. Here we have the canopy for the camera. This is the camera. Looks like we got a set of props, 2 sets of props, some tools to assemble it, and rubber band to hold the battery on, motors, and the flight controller ESC VTX single board. And we got the carbon fiber frame. And it looks like some simple instructions for building the drone. So let's open all these up and see what we got. All right, so here we have the flight controller ESC VTX board. This is a Crazy Bee F4 Lite all-in-one flight controller and has BL Heli S on it. For the motors, we have 802 19,000 kV brushless motors. Pretty typical for a 1S. The props are HQ prop, 40mm 2-blade props. You get 8 of them. And for a camera, we have the Runcam Nano 3 800 TVL camera. So let's get to assembling this. So the only thing that this kit doesn't come with that you're gonna need are 1S batteries. Now, if you have an Emax Tiny Hawk, you can just use the same batteries. I'm using the GNB 520 milliamp batteries. You can get a pack of 4 of these for about 20 bucks. So these are the batteries that I'm gonna use. So first thing we want to do is install the bracket onto the camera. So now I'll take the canopy, we'll line the camera up. When you're installing the camera, just make sure that these wires are down the bottom. So we're gonna have it right like that. And there's our camera. Next, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push this stuff aside and I'm gonna get the motors mounted to the frame. So this came with a little tiny bag of screws. These motors are all the same, so it doesn't matter which arm you put it on. All right, there we go. Now we're gonna get ready to mount the flight controller. So the flight controller came with this little bag of screws. So we're gonna empty this and take these 4 screws and we're gonna just put them through the bottom, facing up through these holes. Take one of these little nylon nuts and just screw it on to hold it to the frame. Now do that to all 4 holes. Perfect. All right, so now we're gonna install our flight controller. Take some of these rubber dampeners and just kind of put them right in the corner. There's a little hole for them. I'll just sit right in that. like that. And then this board will only sit in there one way. If you look on the frame, the motors, this is gonna sit upside down, so it's gonna sit like that. But to have the USB port poke out, you're gonna need it lined up with this channel. So this channel, this will be front or this will be front. It doesn't make a difference which way you put it. So I'm gonna put it right like this. Now we'll just connect in our motors. These will only connect in one way. Sick. All right, so we're pretty much done. This is the front of the drone, so when you're putting the camera on, you're going to make sure that it is facing the right direction. And this just slips right over that. Then we take 2 more of those nuts and we'll secure them to that, and that's pretty much it. All right, so let's plug the camera in. Gonna run the wire through here. All right, camera's plugged in, motor's plugged in, everything's mounted. All that's left is the props. So when you're doing the props, we have motor 1, 2, 3, and 4. Motors 1 and 4 will always spin the same direction, as will motors 3 and 2. You can always change the direction in Betaflight, but this is set up to spin counterclockwise on motor 1, counterclockwise motor 4, and then clockwise on motors 2 and 3. So we're going to take a clockwise prop. That's going to go on motor 2. And here I have another clockwise prop. We'll put that one on motor 3. And counterclockwise on motors 1 and 4. All right, so now we will run these rubber bands underneath. There we go. That should hold the battery in. Perfect. All right, so the next step is just going to be binding the drone to your controller. I'm using a Taranis QX7, so I'm just going to go in. So you can either create a new model. I'm just going to duplicate my Tiny Hawk. So we're going to copy. And I'm going to put it right underneath my Tiny Hawk. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to rename it. Now we're going to scroll down to the XJT module. I'm going to change that to D8. And now we'll go to bind. Now before we hit bind, we're going to make sure that our drone is in bind mode 2. So when you're getting ready to bind this, make sure you hit the bind button and not the boot button, because if you start hitting the boot button while you're plugging the drone in, you're gonna have to reset some stuff in Betaflight. So to avoid doing that, just make sure you hit the bind button, and the bind button is right there. So just make sure you hit that button when you're ready to bind. So I'm gonna hit bind on here. That'll start beeping. We'll plug the drone in. And you don't have to actually be holding the button down on this when you're binding it, when you plug the battery in. Just click it. And there we go. Looks like it was bound up. So now we can disconnect the drone. And when I plug it in, we should have signal on here. Perfect. So now let's go plug this into the computer. We'll go over to Betaflight and just make sure all of our switches are correct, and we will be all set. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is launch Betaflight. So open up Betaflight, and now we will just plug our drone in. And since this is an all-in-one board, it should just connect. The receiver that's built into the board will power with a flight controller. So now your quad should pop up on Betaflight. We'll go over to receiver. Make sure everything looks like it's correct, and it isn't. So as you can see, it thinks that the throttle is the pitch. So we'll just go under channel map. We'll change that to FrSky. Hit save. There we go. That looks a little better. And then we should also have our switches. Perfect. And now we can go to the modes tab, and we'll set our arm. So arm is set to aux1, and that is correct. If it wasn't showing up, you just hit auto and then flick the switch that you want to be arm. I'm doing the switch. So that's good. We have angle mode. Typically I would have those on this. I don't really use those a lot, but we'll set it up anyways. You flick that into auto, flick the switch you want, and then we'll have it in the up position. So that's right there. Beeper, we'll add range. I'm going to use this switch. And we want it to beep when it's up. So we'll move the sliders so that it fills right there. Now scroll down, flip over after crash. I love having that. We'll change that. I typically map that to this switch right here. And that looks pretty good. And now the only other thing to do in Betaflight is to just set up your OSD however you like it. Once you have this set up how you like, just hit save and disconnect. All right, so it's been a couple days. I've been flying this drone nonstop, and I gotta say it's actually a lot more durable than I thought. This frame is extremely thin. 1.5 millimeters. It's 1.5 millimeter thick frame. I definitely thought that it wouldn't last this long, but it is, and it's pretty fun to fly. The tune that comes on it is pretty good. I have only changed the rates a little bit, but otherwise there's not really much prop wash, and flies pretty good. The camera image is a lot better than I anticipated, and for 25 milliwatts, I'm actually able to get some decent range out of this thing. I'm averaging about 5 to 6 minutes on one of these GNB 520 batteries, and that's flying pretty aggressively. So I'm very happy with the flight times, very happy with the durability. As far as weight goes, this drone comes in at, I believe it's 20 grams. Yeah, 20 grams. And then once you add in the battery, you're looking at about 33, 34 grams. So still a very light drone. It's definitely the lightest drone that I have, and it's pretty quick for its size. So in conclusion, this is a very nice little drone, especially for the price, especially if you're looking to get into actually building quads and you're upgrading from something like a Tiny Hawk. You can take the original 1S batteries that you have for that and it'll work for this. Plus, this doesn't require any soldering. This is literally, you just plug it in and go. Do a little bit of Betaflight tuning, but it's really not that bad. So it's a nice little upgrade. It's a little faster and a little bit more fun to fly. So I'll put a link to some flight footage right up here in the corner. You can click that little banner right there. And if this video helped you out or you found it useful, make sure you leave a comment, like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.